Namaha. Okay. So let's see. I need to just make one more adjustment before I begin. Of course, I made a little mistake here, and I'll correct that right now. This is a most interesting section we're dealing with. And there's something odd about it. And the background story, for those who may not have been listening, is this takes place before the Battle of Kurukshetra. And before that battle, I believe it was in Dwarka, Arjuna was there and as a prince, and there's a king and all of this. And a Brahmin had a complaint. Every time his wife had a baby would be born, start crying, and then what happens next? The baby disappears. And just disappears. Basically, from the parents' point of view, the baby died, but there's not even a body to bury. And this happened 9 or 10 times. And by that time, the parents were getting pretty, as we would say in modern terminology, this is not exactly the word in the Bhagavatam, but they were getting, the right word would be fried. They were pretty upset. And they went and protested at the palace. Now, in the days of the Bhagavatam, in the junction between the yugas, when Kali Yuga was beginning, protest was allowed. It wasn't, for example, if you go right now to Thailand and you say anything against the king, like, the king didn't wipe his nose properly, even that can get you a prison sentence. You are forbidden to say one word negative about the king. That is the rules in Thailand now. In America now, if you say anything against the president, he tends to sue you in court. These things happen. That wasn't that way then. People had freedom of speech. And we can read about this if we read about when Alexander the Great conquered parts of India. He noted, his journalist noted, that there was many freedoms. For example, soldiers would make sure that non-combatants were never hurt in battle. So somebody could be, a big battle could be going on. There weren't religious wars then, there were political wars. And the farmers could be plowing next to the battlefield, occasionally duck for a wayward arrow, but no one would ever shoot at them. No one would ever shoot at civilians. This is noted by Alexander the Great's journalist. And there was freedom of speech that was again noted, and people could protest the king. So in this case, they're protesting, if you're really such a good king, my children wouldn't die. You must not be doing something right. How could 10 children die right after childbirth? So Arjuna heard this protest and he said, look, I will find your children what happened. If not, I will sacrifice myself in the fire. That's a big statement. That's a huge statement. He said, I will sacrifice myself. So Arjuna was determined to find what happened. And he went to the planet of Yamaraj and was not very successful. And he had mystic powers and could go places that we couldn't even imagine going. And then he was about to keep his word and burn himself in the fire. And Krishna said, no, not necessary. Come with me, I will take care of things. And Krishna got his Vaikuntha horses. These are not ordinary horses like we have. These are Vaikuntha horses. They could go anywhere. And they went beyond the coverings of the universe. And they went into an area of utter darkness. And that's kind of how we describe, if we get beyond the solar system where the sun doesn't have much influence, it'd be utter darkness. So Krishna pulled up his Sudarshan chakra, which gave light, and eventually they made it to the home of Mahavishnu. And that's where we are with this verse here. We are now entering the home of Mahavishnu. Now, sometimes a debate occurs. Who is God? There was a book came out in the 70s, an anti-cult book. And I read it. I was, you might say, a bhakta then, and there was a lot of attack of the movement by anti-cultists. We had Ted Patrick kidnapping devotees and books being written that we were a cult. And there were some really, really weird cults then. You had like the Children of God. The ladies would go out and offer sexual favors to get people to join their cult. It was called Flirty something. I forgot the name of it. But there was so many weird things. You had one guru came from India and owned 60 Rolls Royces. You had a lot of weird things going on. Admittedly, it was so. And we were lumped in. And so this anti-cult book came out. This anti-cult book, when I read the chapter on ISKCON, it said, wow, I like ISKCON even more after reading the anti-cult chapter. So what did they say? Well, they said, their God is so weird that he can lie down on an ocean and breathe millions of universes. How absurd. I said, no, that's the God I'm looking for. I want a God that's that great. And I said, that attracted me. That was what repelled this anti-cult author. And that's what attracted me, a God that's so great. So this is discussing this issue of how great God is being discussed here, and who is the greatest. And there's sometimes debate in India, is Shiva the greatest? Is Vishnu the greatest? Who's the greatest? Is Mahavishnu the greatest? Here, the Bhagavatam version establishing that Krishna is the greatest. And why were the children kidnapped? Just so Mahavishnu can see Krishna. Even though Mahavishnu is Krishna in one sense, in another sense, Krishna has qualities, 4 qualities, even beyond those of Mahavishnu. So the greatest of the great. As Saint Ansel has put forth this argument, God is the greatest person that there's no one greater than. And I'm paraphrasing his argument. So here, in going with that argument given by the Christian saint, it's the same kind of argument, that Krishna is the greatest, that there is no one greater. Or if we go back to Aristotle, the perfect form. You go to Jung, the greatest archetype. So here in the Bhagavatam pages, it's being established that even Mahavishnu wanted to see Krishna. So that's kind of the background of how we got to this verse. So in text 1089:58, I'm going to not read the verse. I'm just going to read the word for word because some of the words are important. Dvija of the Brahmins, Atmaja, the sons, my, Yuvaya, you, 2, Didirikshuna, who wanted to see Maya by me. This is Mahavishnu speaking. Upanita brought Bhuvi on the earth, Dharma, the principles of religion, Guptaya for the protection, Kala as my expansions, Avitarnu descended, Avena of the earth, Bara who are burdens, Ashuran the demons, Hatva after killing, here Buya again, Tuivaraya quickly, Itam come, Anti to the proximity, may my. Okay, Lord Mahavishnu said, I brought the Brahmin son here because I want to see the two of you, Arjuna and Krishna. My expansions is interesting. So the Mahavishnu is saying that these are my expansions, but later concludes, but you're greater than me. I brought the two of you, my expansions, who have descended to the earth to save the principles of religion. As soon as you finish killing the demons who burn in the earth, quickly come back to me. And purport, as explained by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, the secret import of these words spoken for Arjuna's edification is as follows. You too, who have descended along with your kalas, that is, your personal energies, should kindly return to me after killing the demons who burn the earth. Please quickly send these demons here to me for the sake of their liberation. It is stated in the Sri Harivamsa and in the second canto of the Bhagavatam that the path of gradual liberation passes through the intermediate stage of Lord's Mahavishnu abode outside the eighth shell of the universe. So, in this situation, we're trying to establish who is the greatest. And earlier in their chapter, this chapter is establishing the greatness of God. Earlier in their chapter, the story where Brigu wanted to know, was it Vishnu? Was it Shiva? Or was it Brahma who's the greatest? And as those who attended the classes will recall, Brigu went and insulted his father Brahma, who got pretty mad, but let him go because it's a son. Went and insulted Shiva, and Shiva was about to kill him, but Parvati said, no, you can't do that. And then he went to Mahavishnu, and he put his foot on Vishnu's chest, and Vishnu and Lakshmi were concerned, did you hurt your foot? And he understood that the most tolerant was Vishnu, and Vishnu is the greatest. So in the beginning of the chapter, we established that Vishnu is the greatest. Here we establish that greater than Vishnu is Krishna. Now you might say they're one the same. For example, when Krishna is at his office, we call him Vishnu, maintaining the universe, he's at work. When he's home, what do we call Krishna? Can somebody tell me? When he's home, there's a trick question. What do we call Krishna when he's home? Somebody want to say? What? Say again?
Krishna.
Yes, of course. That's a trick question. We call him Krishna. So when Krishna's at work, maintaining the universe, call him Vishnu. But when he's home, it's just like, let's say you meet the chief of police. I'm friends with the chief of police. So when I see him at work, I always address him as chief. But when we go to lunch, I call him by his name because we're friends. So different circumstances or different relations. So at work, he's Vishnu, but at home, he's Krishna. So beginning of the chapter is superiority of Vishnu. At the end of the chapter, above Vishnu is Krishna, and it's Mahavishnu speaking and saying that. Does anybody, I'll pause here to see if anybody has any question on this essential point. Okay, we'll go on. And as I usually try to do, you see me looking away, I'm going to give you a little entertainment in a moment.
Maybe a question?
Yes.
So when it was Mahavishnu who was saying you two expansions and was referring to Krishna and Arjuna, you two expansions of mine, was that right, or do I have that backwards? It was Mahavishnu speaking, calling them expansions?
Yes, Mahavishnu is calling them expansions of himself, but then as the chapter goes on, it becomes clear that Krishna is supreme.
Yeah,
so
I wonder.
Mahavishnu is a little, you're my expansions. I sent you to Earth, but it's not quite that way.
I wonder why he says that. Is it sort of like a literary device to get our attention, or do you think there's any deeper meaning behind him calling Krishna an expansion? Because it's quite the opposite, right?
Yeah, I see it that way. It's kind of a literary. Uh, uh, um, if we go on to the next verse, um, um, or I think two verses ahead, it becomes clear. I mean, and to some degree, Krishna's letting Mahavishnu think, okay, you can think you're a boss, but it's really me. And there are other stories. There's that uh, uh, the question you raise is a very good question, because some of this appears to be somewhat contradictory in certain ways. It appears that uh, here Krishna is supreme, but Mahavishnu is saying you're my expansions, and it does appear that way. And but we have to look at it in the whole context of the Bhagavatam, and the context of even this very chapter. And we see that Mahavishnu is above Brahma and Shiva, and Krishna is above them. And Mahavishnu arranged this just to see his own Lord Krishna. But the wording is as you describe it, somewhat paradoxical. Paradoxical means an apparent contradiction that forces us to go deeper, not an actual contradiction. But that is a nice question you asked. So,
Can you hear me?
you're a little soft.
Yeah, the volume is really bad. You can hear me okay? All right.
Yes.
Anything if you can't hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, so people have different perspectives. When Krishna comes into the wrestling arena, Mother Jasoda saw him as her child, and the gopis saw him as the boy next door, and the yogis saw him as the absolute truth, and Kamsa saw him as death. So even Mahavishnu has a perspective, from his perspective of being like, God in the office, like you were saying. Then he's thinking, well, Krishna is like an expansion of me. Even though that perspective is only his perspective, when we step back, according to Shastra, then Krishna's two Bhagavantam, that Krishna is the source of everything. And I was reading last night the verse that we usually chant in the morning, Nasta Prayesh for Bhadreshu, and Prabhupada, Krishna empowers Prabhupada to explain the term, everything that is troublesome to the heart. You know that? Everything that is troublesome to the heart. And it says that when we hear regularly about the glories of the Lord, that everything that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed. When we know that the Lord is in control of everything, when we know that He's our friend and is our well-wisher, and when we remember that we're supposed to serve God, that's on the Bhagavad Gita, that's called the peace formula. When we realize how great is Krishna, then we become peaceful. Because if he's our friend but he's not in control, it's useless. And if he's in control but he's not our friend, it's useless. But even if we remember he's the controller and he's our friend, but we're not willing to do what he would like us to, we're not interested in pleasing him, then we're still not going to be peaceful, because Krishna's going to do what he thinks is best. So it's kind of interesting, the whole idea of people having different perspectives. But the perspective of seeing the complete goodness, power of the Lord, and the fact that our satisfaction is there when we try to please the Lord, that brings us to the point of sanity and peace, and everything that is troubled to the heart is practically destroyed. I've
I
seen a
love that.
neglect to go to the class, that neglect to take time to hear the glories of the Lord. And there's things that are troublesome to the heart. But we know the cure because we hear what Scripture says. I'm sorry to talk so long. Well, glories to Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Oh, I'm not sorry. You spoke beautifully. Bhima Prabhu, your insight, please.
Yeah, Prabhu. Can you hear me okay? I'm
I
one of
can
those
now.
old guys who doesn't trust technology. Okay. Two things. One is, yeah, that's an important point that we have this, for any lack of another term, a drug to take care of all our anxieties and fears and doubts. We have this drug. We just got to take it. We got to take this pill of the truth. Medicine, yeah, medicine. Well, there's an inebriation there too. You notice you get medicine from Western, especially Western medicine. It's never inebriating, but with Krishna, we get the healthful effects, soma. We get the healthful effects, and we also get this inebriation that we actually like. It's not just you're getting rid of anxiety, but you're filling it up with like, really, Krishna's a cowherd boy, and he's going through these pastimes to show me these lessons so that I don't have to go to school. I can watch Krishna do something and realize I'm not supposed to, or I'm supposed to learn from what Krishna is doing, or at least enjoy Krishna's pastimes, that he's actually showing me something as well as entertaining. Not that Krishna's there to entertain us, but it's a natural that we would be overjoyed to see what Krishna is up to. One of those things, Prabhu, I do have a question. The second thing, which is we all have, apparently the jiva has unlimited types of rasas, and in that, wouldn't Mahavishnu's "Hey, I'm your God" to Krishna, like Mother Yashoda is "Hey, I'm your mother," and Arjuna is like "Hey, I'm your friend." Would not the ras that Mahavishnu has, like "Hey, I'm your God"? I mean, is that a ras?
Well, I think so. I mean, I see it that way. These are pastimes to teach us lessons. They're all have a purpose. So I would think so. So let me give you a little entertainment break. I like giving a little entertainment class. There is we're talking about how great God is. This is universal across every religion, every circumstance. And we will have an unusual song sung by an unusual group that I found quite inspirational. I'll only play a minute or two of it, but we'll share screen and play it for you. These are inmates in a prison singing. It was quite inspirational. Here it goes. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go for it. And here it goes. Give me a little grief here. Okay.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. See you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. See you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes.
So I hope that was a little inspirational. It reminds me of My Sweet Lord. And that was the mood, the reason I played it. This is the mood of Mahavishnu. What did he want to do? He wanted to see Krishna. He set up this whole pastime, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti, just so he can see Krishna. So he may may say my expansions, but it's beyond that. He wanted to see Krishna. Just like these prisoners, they want to see the Lord within the heart. That's what they're praying. And I particularly like this video because you see their faces, and you see in Kali Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is chanting and dancing for God. And when they do it, you see in their faces that they are actually experiencing the same kind of transcendental happiness we would have when we're chanting, let's say in a kirtan or whatever. It's that same thing. It is a Yuga Dharma. And that Yuga Dharma is beginning right herein, towards the very end of the 10th canto, when Mahavishnu is expressing that same sentiment, set up this whole pastime of, capturing the 10 children of the Brahmin and doing all that, and he's setting that whole thing up just so he can see Krishna. Even though you might say he is Krishna, but there are 4 qualities that Krishna has even beyond Mahavishnu. And of course, Mahavishnu has qualities beyond Shiva, and Shiva has qualities beyond Brahma. So we're trying to work up to who actually is the topmost. And that's where this chapter is taking us to, who is actually supreme. Now, and we find many pastimes get us that point. There's a similar story at Govardhan Hill. When Krishna is raising Govardhan Hill, at the same time, he is also worshiping a deity of Vishnu. So here, Krishna is supreme, but he's respectful to a deity of Vishnu. So this idea that there is supreme and there is supreme. So theologically, this is somewhat unique in our tradition. Many traditions will speak how great God is, but they'll talk about how great God is, but how great is actually the supreme? At least for me, the most convincing I've ever read is in the Bhagavatam. And it's so convincing. And I want to worship the greatest. We all want, we want to know who is the greatest. And the Bhagavatam actually goes down that path where in the beginning of the chapter, Brigu wanted to know who's the greatest, worked up to Vishnu. Here, Vishnu wants to understand who is the greatest. It's Krishna. So the Bhagavatam has many stories that way. We have that famous story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Brahma was summoned to the palace of Vishnu. And he knocks at the door, and the gatekeepers come. And Lord Brahma has the ability to go there, cross the causal ocean. And the gatekeepers say, "Who's there, please?" He says, "Who's there? I'm Brahma." And they said the amazing words which bewildered Brahma no end. "Which Brahma? What do you mean, which Brahma? I'm Brahma. What do you mean, which Brahma? I mean, what's wrong with you? I'm Brahma, the 4-headed Brahma." "Oh, that Brahma, come on in." And then Brahma asked Vishnu, "Why do your gatekeepers say which Brahma?" At that moment, Lord Vishnu, by his mystic potency, summons all the Brahmas and all the Shivas, but let's just stick with Brahmas now, to come and see him. And only our Brahma could see all the Brahmas. The other Brahmas, by multidimensional whatever, could not see all the Brahmas. And they all came and they all put their heads down in obeisances at once. It was a tumultuous sound, and some of them had way more than 4 heads, because a much larger universe. It's ours, kind of a small universe. Our Brahma only needs 4 heads. They had many, many more heads. And the Brahmas say, "You summoned us, Vishnu, what's up?" And Lord Vishnu says, "I just want to make, is everything okay? How's it going?" And to put it in modern terminology, "What's up, dude?" So Lord Vishnu says, "What's up? Is everything okay?" And the Brahmas said, because they couldn't see each other, say, "It's all fine." And then, "Okay, go back to maintain your universe. Goodbye." And they all left. And our Brahma became very humble because he was so proud. "I'm Brahma, I'm the great Brahma." And all of a sudden, there's many greater Brahmas than him. And that's Vishnu. Now we're working from Vishnu all the way up to the actual Supreme. And that's why Prabhupada named the book Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's the supreme beyond anything else. So this is taking us to the highest of the highest. And look how lucky we are. Here we are. By the grace of Prabhupada, we can actually understand the highest of the highest, even though we don't have the qualifications, I certainly don't, of Lord Brahma, or the qualifications of Arjuna, or the qualifications. What is the qualification we have to hear about the highest of the highest? Very good fortune. We've been brought in. Now, is that good fortune something that began previous life, or did it begin this life? Could go either way. But it is the best of fortune that we can associate with the highest of the highest. And how can we know this is real? How can we know it's real? That's why I played that song. Because by our own, how do you know after you had dinner that you're full? You know it. When I have a nice dessert, which I do have to avoid for health reasons, but I'll cheat here and there. When I have a nice dessert, I know this is so satisfying. So I know it. Similarly, when we chant congregationally or individually, chanting individually japa is a harder thing than congregationally, but we actually get in the focus. We experience that higher taste and we realize, yes, I am connecting with the Supreme of the Supreme. So I've been asked to pause about 10 minutes before the end. I will pause, see if there are any questions or comments on these very important points raised in this 89th chapter of the 10th canto. Any questions? Yes, my dear Mind. Nice to see you.
Very nice to see you, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the class. It was really, thank you for playing that video of the prisoners singing. It really touched me. It's the same prayer, I often make to Krishna. And it just made me realize that no one has a monopoly on God, that he is available for everyone. And that's such a particular message of Lord Chaitanya, right? Its holy name is for everyone and anyone. So I really love that, how merciful that is. Going back to the verses we read, it just occurred to me how, yes, there's this hierarchy that we're to see in this story, that Krishna is the supreme, but I'm also seeing this supreme person's personality who is so humble to bow down to Mahavishnu along with Arjuna, and we also see that when he's in different places, but particularly when he's leaving Hastinapur, he's bowing down to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and he's God, but he's playing the part of being just like everyone, bowing down to the king, to the emperor. So it's really nice to. I didn't really see that before, that Krishna is doing something similar there, by paying respect to Mahavishnu. So along with understanding and seeing who the supreme person is, we're also seeing this very sweet, humble aspect of Krishna. So I really like that. Thank you so much.
Is it?
What
Yeah.
What to speak of washing Sudama Brahman's feet? Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, he washed Sudama Brahman's feet, and there is a wonderful story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya was traveling through South India. And, I don't recall exactly where, but it's not very important. And there was this very poor Brahmin who was sitting there with a Gita in his hand. And the other Brahmins would laugh at him because he'd sit there kind of crying with the Gita in his hand. These other proud Brahmins who knew Sanskrit inside out would just laugh and even mock this Brahmin. Why? The Brahmin was illiterate. And there he is with the Gita, and he can't read a word of it, and he's crying. So Lord Chaitanya walked up to him, and of course, Lord Chaitanya is also Paramatma. He understood the heart of the Brahmin, and he went up to the Brahmin. Oh, what are you crying about? He says, well, I'm illiterate. I really can't even, he's a very humble Brahmin. I can't even read it, but I know the story. I've heard it. And when I think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead would become a chariot driver for Arjuna and would serve his devotee by being the chariot driver, I just burst into tears and I just cry and cry over it. And Lord Chaitanya embraced him and said, you are the real Brahmin. These other Brahmins mocking you, teasing you, they're nothing. You are the real Brahmin, because even though you're totally illiterate, you understand the essence of the Gita, that Lord Vishnu himself, as Krishna, the highest form, went and became the chariot driver for his friend. That's God. And we relate to God that way. As I was brought up in tradition that God is great. Jewish tradition, God is great. But this goes beyond great. Yeah, that's a first step. And if we don't accept God's great, we're kind of in trouble. But here we're saying that God is also our friend, our provider. I have as many of you do, a difficult service. Many of us have difficult services. Mine is running the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And the purpose of the Institute, when the movement began, the devotees who first joined were all college educated. Not many of them were, like Brahmananda and Satsarup Maharaj, and Hayagriva was even a professor. Early devotees were educated. Then after that, the next wave were kind of hippies who had dropped out of college, of not going at all, and not so educated. So Prabhupada realized that according to the Gita, yada yada, chati stretas, whatever the great men or women do, the common will follow. So Prabhupada understood that we needed a more educated presentation. And he formed the Bhaktivedanta Institute to look at not just science, but science and humanities presented in a more sophisticated manner. And somehow or other, I end up as a director. And so how to do a service that's way beyond my pay grade. So with this, I take shelter of the Greyhound Bus Company. Now, many of you probably have heard of Greyhound Bus. They used to be the only the major intercity bus company in America. They're still around, though, a shell of what they used to be, I suspect. And they have a great motto. And the motto of Greyhound Bus Company is what inspires me every day. Does somebody know what the motto of the Greyhound Bus Company is? It's my inspiration. Anybody know? Come on, some of you taking a bus. I just gave a hint.
Leave the driving to us.
Yes, take the bus and leaving the driving to us. That's it. That's the Greyhound Bus motto. I thought it's very transcendental. And in that way, that's how I have to do my service every day. It's beyond me. I know it's beyond me. I'm not being humble. I'm being very realistic. So I have to depend on Krishna as not just the boss, but as the friend. And Krishna is the friend who will carry, as he says to Arjuna, carry what I lack. And God, I know what I lack. So Krishna is the one who will carry it. And this is the relationship we have, like that Brahmin just crying and being illiterate. So it's not that one has to be an intellectual to take to Krishna. Yes, the Bhaktivedanta Institute is dealing with the intellectual part of the world, but one doesn't need to be an intellectual to take. It just takes purifying the heart. Now, just a little diversion, but I think it's very important. Why can the Bhaktivedanta Institute be successful in establishing a non-physicalist view of the world, that our consciousness is not just an emanation from matter, that consciousness is separate? Why might we be successful? Because we have a secret weapon. And would you like to know the secret weapon? The secret weapon is called sadhana. See, when academics get together, there's an old joke. Why do academics fight so much? And the joke is because the stakes are so low. And academics have so much ego involved that they often fight with each other over silly little things and so much cheating. I mean, I was in graduate school. I was shocked at the amount of cheating that was going on. I could tell you stories of just professors lying and cheating because they're just working on false ego and want prestige. Not at all like that. I don't mean to say that at all. But our advantage is every day we work to defeat by our sadhana, our false ego. And when we work to defeat our false ego, then we can work together, biologists with philosophers, with Sanskritists, with astrophysicists, because we work to defeat our false ego. So our strength is that sadhana we have in which we work to defeat our false ego. So, and by working to defeat our false ego, then we can understand that we are not the controller, that Krishna is the controller, and he's our friend, and we can depend on Krishna and take the bus and leave the driving to us actually is a model that really works. So we have 1 minute left. Is there any final question, comment? Criticism is welcome too. Somebody disagrees with something.
Hare Krishna, you made a really good point about, and Min also reflected that the idea that, and it's a little confusing in this story because the Lord appears two of his features, and he's talking to himself, and reflects something. We had a conversation with somebody last night. The girl was questioning the idea of the fact that Muslims and Jewish people and Christian people might disagree, and then somebody said, well, the thing is, just like you have so many names, your children call you mother, your sister calls you sister, your mother calls you daughter, your husband calls you wife, so you have different features, but you're only one person. So the Lord also has different features. And in this story, two different features of the Lord are speaking to each other based on their perspective. And only Krishna can do that. How wonderful is Krishna?
I like that. And I'm always glad when you're at my class because you always add something special. It's very much
Prabhupada what to say. I'm not saying anything that I made up, but I don't want to take credit for it. But Prabhupada told us this, so we're repeating what we heard from Guru and Scripture.
okay. I think it's 8 o'clock. I'm very conscious that we're going to greet the deities right now. So I thank you all very much. I wish you all a blessed day in serving Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Adi, can you unmute? Unmute. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Is phone? Yeah, I think so. I remember the guy that Prasad in hand. Google in hand. अच्छा, आप आगे जाएंगे?
In the Bhagavad Gita, when he says like a village, like a well to the village on the banks of a river, such as all the scripture to the person who has a direct experience.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, dear devotees, for sticking around. Adipusha Prabhu, thank you for facilitating the darshan. We could see your tears. Okay. Would anyone like to speak?
The lens was all blurry.
Yeah, that's Adipusha Prabhu's tears.
The class is going.
Ask him if he could zoom in sometime so we can see like the jewelry and the garland. Ask him if he can do that next time. Like give us a toe to head like close up. Yes?
Prabhu, you just received an instruction.
He's in the elevator.
Okay. All right.
Hare Krishna.
Venu Maduri, are you here? Venu Maduri, how was the class? Was it sophisticated enough? Was the presentation?
Quiet. Because we can do one thing at a
It
time.
was sophisticated, it was nourishing, it was thought-provoking, it was heart-opening, it was everything that you could want in a Srimad Bhagavatam class and more. Haribol.
Thank you. Yeah, when he was playing that prisoner's song, I
Oh my gosh.
felt like going to jail.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
How can you be any more sincere? There's no
Yeah.
place for these people to go except to sing the names. There's nothing. They sit in a cell for years, and so talk about a chincha. What is it? What is it when you have nothing? A chinchina? What?
Yeah, a Kinshana.
A kinchina. Sorry, I read more than I listen. Yeah, there's a kinchina. There's a there's a pastime, right? Lord Chaitanya, or no, Hari Das was thrown in jail, and he went past all the people, reaching out between praising him and asking him to bless them, and he said, "I bless you to be in this position always, having nothing." Yeah, so that's pretty wild, to find out that the last will be first. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Jamuna Jaya has a hand up. That's a rare presence of Jamuna Jaya during the afterglow. Where is she?
Yeah, my schedule is different. I got kicked off for a bunch of the meetings, so I got back in. But I just wanted to say, quote something that Guru Dev says about this, the Mahavishnu, the Krishna, who is the greater. And Maharaj always talks about when he first came to Krishna consciousness, he had been studying philosophy, and he had read this definition of God as being that being of which no greater thing could be conceived. And he says when he sat down and he read Krishna book, a friend, he was a college student, and he read about this blue boy who was beautiful, who had the best job in the world. He tended cows and played with his friends. And he says that is the greatest. He couldn't conceive of anything higher. And so that there's this point that being God is only a small part of what Krishna is. If you're God, you wouldn't be the one in the office, to quote Brahmatirtha. Like the CEO of Target isn't the one stocking the shelves. He's enjoying. And so this is Krishna is enjoying. And then as Benny Madhuri was saying, showing us how to, or I forget who's saying, showing us how to worship. I think it was Min was saying, showing us how to worship. But ultimately, the man in charge would be the Adipurusha, the enjoyer. So when we were talking about that, I was thinking about how Guru Dev always explains that it makes perfect sense that Vishnu is the office, Vishnu is the business attire, but Krishna is God, because that's the greatest thing that could be conceived of. So, hey, Krishna.
Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Okay. Would anyone like to speak? Yes, no? As Adipurusha Prabhu says, it's a definite maybe.
Somebody is speaking. Rama. That's the best.
I was just saying that what struck me the most was how nice those inmates looked. None of them had horns sticking out of their heads, even though they were inmates in jail, and they were singing so sweetly. If you passed any of them on the street, they just looked like nice guys.
That's because they are now. That's because they are.
Yeah. Anyway.
Jai. William Prabhu, would you like to unmute yourself and recite the Maha Mantra, the whole mantra?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Perfect. The yajna is now officially over. Thank you very much for your association, dear devotees. We need it. It's our lifeline. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful day. Wonderful.